What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a soundbite you won't use. The show where we talk about weird, hilarious, and sometimes completely unnecessary audio facts from around the world of sound design. I'm your host, YL, and today's episode is about a literal soundbite that has probably worked more jobs in Hollywood than most actors. And no, it's not a laser, it's not thunder, it's not even a punch sound. It's actually a guy screaming. But not just any scream. Today, we're talking about the Wilhelm Scream, the most famous panic attack in audio history. Now, the crazy thing is, this scream started back in 1951. The movie was called Distant Drums. There's a scene where a soldier gets dragged underwater by an alligator. And when that happens, one poor background actor lets out a scream like someone that just discovered taxes for the first time. Yeah, that scream right there. Now, here's the wild part. When the sound team recorded it, they didn't think, hey, wow, this is the greatest sound we've ever done. It's going to be famous. This is going to be epic. They actually thought the complete opposite. Like, cool. Throw it in the effects library with the rest of the sounds. And that's exactly what they did. Back then, studios like Warner Brothers had huge sound libraries. Think of it like the original sample pack. Instead of 808 Kick Pack Volume 2, it was named Man Screaming in Pain. Very creative naming system. But back then, every sound was recorded physically. There was no digital recording. So you had to name each file, and today what we would call dummy proof. So the scream sits in the sound library for a couple years. In 1953, Charge at Feather River is another movie that came out. And in that movie, there's a character named Private Wilhelm who gets shot with an arrow. And guess what sound they use? Yep, that same scream from that one poor background actor. But that's how it got the name the Wilhelm Scream. And it wasn't even his scream. At this point, it's just another reused sound effect, nothing special. Just a guy screaming his lungs out like he stepped on a Lego. But then something happens that's changed audio history forever. 24 years later, that is. In 1977, a young sound designer named Ben Burtt is working on a little movie you may have heard of, called Star Wars. Now, Ben was digging through old sound libraries looking for sound effects, because back then, you didn't just download sounds online. You literally had to go digging through recordings like an audio archaeologist. And while digging through the crate of the Warner Brothers archive, he finds the Wilhelm Scream. And he loves it. So what does he do? He sneaks it into Star Wars: A New Hope. There's a scene where a stormtrooper falls down the shaft. And suddenly, you recognize that? And from that moment on, the Wilhelm Scream became an inside joke among sound designers. Once Ben Burtt used it in Star Wars, other sound designers started sneaking it into movies too. Kind of like a secret audio handshake. And over time, this scream started appearing everywhere. We're talking movies like Indiana Jones, Toy Story, Batman, Lord of the Rings, countless video games and cartoons. Basically, if someone falls off something dramatically, there's about a 40% chance that they're using the Wilhelm Scream. That's a high percentage for one scream. At this point, the scream has appeared in multiple films and TV shows, hundreds, which means this random recording from 1951 might just be the most successful background actor in Hollywood if you think about it. That scream has worked more movies than the actor himself. That scream has a longer IMDb page than some celebrities that we know today. Honestly, that scream might qualify for a retirement pension by now. And even more bizarre, we have no idea who the original actor is to credit the scream. But here's where it gets interesting from an audio industry perspective. The Wilhelm Scream shows how powerful sound libraries are, because one recording, one moment, one random guy yelling can live on through decades through reuse. And that's something that most of us audio engineers understand very, very well. We reuse sounds all the time. Snare samples, Foley recordings, room tones, sound libraries are basically the DNA of audio production. And the Wilhelm Scream became the mascot of that ideal. It's proof that a single sound can become a part of storytelling culture. But unfortunately, there's a twist. All things come to an end. In recent years, mainly sound designers have been moving away from the Wilhelm Scream because it has become too recognizable. Once audiences started spotting it, it could actually break immersion in the film. Imagine watching a super serious war movie. Someone gets blown off a building, and then suddenly you hear. Now the audience is laughing, not exactly the emotional moment that the director was going for. So some modern films are pretty much moving away from it. But honestly, who cares? The legend has already been cemented in the audio industry. That scream went from a random alligator victim in a 1951 movie to an audio Easter egg recognized around the world. Not bad for a guy who probably didn't get paid for one recording session. Probably didn't get paid at all. Which leads to the real lesson of today's episode. You never know when a random sound might accidentally become audio history. So next time you're watching a movie, someone falls off a cliff, listen carefully. Because someone, somewhere in a sound library, may still be using the Wilhelm Scream. And that's today's episode of a soundbite you won't use, where we prove that sometimes the most legendary audio thing can come from the background. It can come from something that no one has ever expected. So we'll see you next episode. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share this with the friends because everyone loves a fact that they didn't know they need. Did you need it? Did you care? Doesn't matter because it's a fact that you did not know was there. Till next time, hit that like button, that subscribe button. Refuse to sound ordinary.